There is no such thing as bad behavior. There is no such thing as bad behavior, just misunderstandings. Every action is a form of communication. Picture this. It's Monday morning, you have a meeting at work. You can't help but yawn through the whole thing. You're communicating that you're bored, you're tired, or maybe both. I'm autistic. When I become overwhelmed, I have a physical reaction. Shutdown, cry, meltdown, or a combination there. All of those are labeled as bad behavior because they don't conform to society's idea of good behavior. When I find myself in fight or flight mode, I don't care what good is. All I can focus on is getting my needs met. Now, here's where I differ from a child. I have more words. I might not be able to communicate in English. To be honest, when I shut down, I become mute and can only communicate through sign language or by typing it out on my phone. But in the end, I can get my needs met. Non-speaking kids can't verbally speak, but they can communicate. And usually they use their behaviors to do that. And as adults, it's our job to interpret it into words and help them meet their needs. 2 years ago, I started working in preschool in the behavior classroom. It was made up of 4 adults and 11 students spread out over 2 sessions. Other adults were so terrified of my classroom that they would speak through the door instead of just coming in. I had the best kids. And yes, there were days that I went home so exhausted from things being thrown all day, or from screaming, or from having been scratched or bit, or a combination there. But most days, we would leave laughing because the kids had done some of the funniest things that day. Let me introduce you to a few of my students. First, there's Gavin. He could be so sweet and cuddly, and he loved coming to school. But as soon as something clicked in his brain, he would hit, kick, scream, bite, scratch, throw chairs, anything that he could do to tell you that something was wrong. And it took us all year to figure it out, but it was his medication. He was fighting sleep like a toddler because his medication made him so tired and all he wanted to do was to be awake. So we'd deal with his behaviors until he finally fell asleep. Next is Emmett. He could spell his name, and it was one of the only things he could say. So he'd run around, E-M-M-E-T-T. He loved cuddles, stacking toys Tetris style, and snacks. He'd grab an adult, lead him over to the snack cabinet, scream to be picked up, and then try to get his own snack. And that was usually Doritos, Cheez-Its, mini donuts, or a Pediasure. He hated being told no, but it was, and is, a part of life. He would also slam his toys around and scream whenever he was told to pick up. He'd be cleaning up, but he wanted us to know that he was angry about having to clean up. Being angry is okay as long as no one gets hurt. Raider is hands down the funniest kid I have ever met. He knew how to use his behavior to get what he needed. He would lead an adult to the teacher snack cabinet because he wanted a Tootsie Roll. Raider's biggest behavior was walking up to an adult, any adult, regardless if he knew them or not, and sticking his head between their legs. All he wanted was for you to flip him up onto your shoulders and let him hang upside down for a bit. He was sensory seeking, but that was labeled an unwanted behavior. And finally, there's Boston, my favorite kid from that year. Now, he was a major sensory seeker in everything except auditory input. And when he became overwhelmed, he would communicate things like, "Make it stop," or "That is hurting me," by scratching either adults or other kids. He also started crying and trying to elope as soon as we entered the classroom. Turns out he didn't feel safe in there. We put an adult-sized coat on him, and that changed everything. And as for the scratching, I figured out that if I put my hands over his ears, it calmed him because it blocked out the noise and it put pressure on his little head. The Michigan Alliance for Families says children with challenging behaviors are sending adults the message that something is not right or there is a need that is not being met. A child who has tried several times to communicate to adults about what he needs, but whose needs remain unmet, will often use problem behavior as a way of sending a very loud message. Since children often use their behavior to tell us what they need, adults can help the child by figuring out what the meaning behind the child's behavior. All children, but especially those who display challenging behavior, need the consistency of a reliable and caring adult who will provide support and guidance, especially during difficult times. When children feel respected and have their needs met, there is no longer a reason to use challenging behavior. Punishing a child for a behavior may stop the behavior in the moment, but it doesn't give the child support or provide alternate ways to act in difficult situations. I believe behavior intervention plans are really never necessary. Kids just need to be taught how to communicate. They need adults to listen to them and to not ignore them. Behaviors will escalate if the need is never met. What do we teach them? We teach them that 1, we're listening, and 2, some simple behavior modifiers. Listen and respond appropriately to their behaviors. If you can't figure it out, ask them to show you. If they're upset that you told them no, teach them some deep breathing techniques. Teach them how to regulate their feelings as a basic life skill. A little one-on-one attention and some deep breathing can change so many things. Remember to have flexibility. The answer, because I said so, isn't going to help stop behaviors, but it isn't safe and I don't want you getting hurt. Or we can't do that right now because of this, but we can do it later, just might help. Kids listen to adults if they feel like the adult is listening to them. And always remember, there is no such thing as bad behavior, just miscommunications.